Howhaven did it, episode 13. We're in Baldur's Gate running Hoard of the Dragon Queen with the Havenettes until they give me a better name because that's funny. This episode was pure backstory. In the campaign, you have a couple extra days if you make it in time and the other party doesn't dilly-dally in El Terrell, which they really didn't, even with us putting in a fight pit. So they arrived with a couple of days to spare. I figured this would be a great time to punch in some backstory and allow some backstory stuff to happen, and this was purely for my wife. So Remy is played by my wife Amanda, and this is her backstory that she came up with. And I really enjoyed seeing a brand new player, a brand new character. This is my wife's first time playing D&D, and here's a character she created with this beautiful backstory. Well, maybe not beautiful is the wrong word. It's not really, it's tragic, but not sad. Okay. But this backstory that she came up with, this was her brainchild, and then to see how I was able to pull that backstory into the campaign setting, and then into the real campaign itself, and how it's affecting the campaign, because they now have found out that Father Robert, her father, is not only using her, which pisses her off, using Remy as a reason to collect money from people, but that he's part of the dragon cult. And she's pretty sure that he's funneling the money he's collecting from this religion into the cult. DM side of this, that's totally legit. I mean, the dragon cult's trying to raise as much money as they possibly can to make a tribute to Tiamat. That is the goal. Why not? Why not try and use everything other than stealing? Let's also just have everybody take the money from people, and then, that... She's even angrier, though, that he focuses on the less fortunate. So let's take the little bit that they have and hoard it away. Gee, sound like something, but we won't get into anything political. I'm avoiding those conversations in real life, but this is my political world. So this is what's happening. And she loved it. I felt it was a really great example of how to tie in that backstory and use up some time that they had. It was great. It was wonderful. It was a little assassination attempt. It ended up actually being only 4 people, though. If you listened already to the campaign diary part of this, Lu Tao, who's played by Adonis, was not able to make it. He was sick. Callie, who's actually played by my daughter, Christy, she was not feeling the greatest that day. And Eddie is the NPC kobold that they befriended, and I just wasn't feeling it. So you know what? They stayed on the boat. And it was just a 4-person party going down and dealing with an assassin. Now, the worst part of this whole thing is that if you actually are a DM and you've ever played the assassin-style monster, a lot of his skills means he has to come up pretty high on the initiative. And while I expected the rogues maybe to come up a little higher on the initiative than him, maybe, or I bombed the one roll I needed, and he ended up at the bottom of the initiative, which meant he didn't go first in front of everybody, which basically nerfed every ability he has. He was pointless. Other than the poison, he had nothing in his pouch anymore. Okay, it sucked. I was hoping he would go first, at least before Nahis, because then he could have done some damage to her and maybe knocked her out of the way. But no, everybody went for him. I think I rolled like a 2 on his initiative, which meant even with everybody else's bonus, it would. So, how do you do this? This is my advice. I have an assassin that just nerfed himself by rolling shitty on initiative, which totally could happen. So, my immediately change of pace was the fact that he focused on Remy, which is his only mission, as he was hired to kill her first. But second was the fact that I basically wrote him off as a noob. Who else would make that mistake, right? Well, other than the fact that it happens, you goof up. But I just basically was like, all right, this guy just apparently is the newest member of the Assassin's Guild, and they didn't really care. So that's what happened. And so unfortunately, this encounter went from something I thought was going to be a really cool encounter with this assassin. That's what happened. And it was done. It was over. I mean, they walked through that encounter. It was like 3 rounds and they killed him. He got 2 attacks on Remy, poisoning her both times, and done. Yay, toast. It was a good feeling and a bad feeling at the same time. The party did great. They were rocking it. They're like, assassins! You get the idea, though. So, that kind of sucked. But it was a good way of tying everything in. And then that's when they found the regalia, and they found that Father Robert was part of the Hoard, and then, or at least part of the Cult of the Dragon, and then they ran away. That him and his followers decided to take off, leaving all their stuff behind because They don't need it. They're humble people, remember? So, that was a great time. I thought this was a really good way of tying that in. And, you know, it happens. Sometimes an encounter goes the wrong way, purely by the dice. Sometimes you're going to kill it, and sometimes you don't. And in this instance, I totally didn't. So, that is the behind the scenes on this one. A very simple way of doing it. Not a lot to do with the campaign itself. They are still waiting for the Hoard to show up. We got one more day in between. So, they're going to have one more day in Baldur's Gate where they have some other... they take on another assignment. Let's leave it at that. And then we'll figure out where they go from there before the Hoard gets there. Or say the Hoard of Gold gets there. I keep calling it the Hoard before the Hoard gets there. Thinking it's like a horde of orcs or something. Wrong imagery. Sorry. The Hoard of Gold. The cultists. The cult gets there with the Hoard. Green Nest. You get the picture. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Haven the Hare, and I will never monetize this channel because I hate commercials. So if you want to help support me doing all this stuff, you can buy my card game down below, order a dice push from me, support me on Patreon, give me some ideas on what you want, possibly as a patron if you do decide to sign up for me. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, by all means, comment below. Shoot me an email at haventhehare@gmail.com. I'm always happy to talk with anybody about D&D, RPGs, Ren fairs, which, unfortunately, at the time of filming this, we're still in a serious stay-at-home order, and almost every Ren fair has been canceled in Michigan. So I am doing this because I am an entertainer who's bored. So again, thank you so much for watching. May you make all of life saving throws. Product placement.